If you're not doing a good enough job finding a job, the support magistrate will charge you with support anyway. There's lots of options for this person if he would just work with the system. You don't get to bring up a disadvantaged child just because you don't like your ex. Let's try something, let's finish up on something a little less dramatic. Maybe still a little sad, but not sad in the something bad happened to a puppy, but rather something's just up with this individual, and I'm very sorry that they don't seem to be able to figure out how to be a proper participant in the civilization that we have created here. I am talking, of course, about Michael Rotondo. Who is Michael Rotondo, you may ask? Well, Michael Rotondo was the gentleman who was evicted from his parents' house earlier this year. He had not taken the hint after he was told to leave. He had not taken the hint after he was formally evicted by notice of proceedings. He did not take the hint when he was offered $1,000 or $2,000 to leave. He finally took the hint when the court ordered him to leave or be held in some kind of contempt of court or something like that. So then he finally left. I don't know what he's been doing since then, but he has filed no less than 3 things on the United States Supreme Court docket. I believe 2 of them have already been denied. Let me try and find the status of these things here. This is for a petition, writ of mandamus, motion for leave to proceed in forma pauperis, permission denied. Here's another one. I'll try to keep his address off of it this time. Court of Appeals of New York, application for a stay submitted to Justice Ginsburg. And then here's one. Oh, this one's been distributed for conference. 9 pages on the one and 19 pages on the other. So these is actually 2 separate filings. Let's go to the one that I started talking about, the one for the custody child support thing, I think. Herein the word of petitioner refers to the petitioner, the U.S. Supreme Court action, Michael Rotondo. Herein, the word respondent refers to New York State support action. Question presented, does the state have the power to encroach on the rights of a or any person through the exclusive means of the omission of due process from some or all legal proceedings? All right, so due process is your right to several things. It's actually a very, very important, and one of your greatest substantive rights in the United States is your right to the process of law that is due to you under the Constitution of the United States. It's both a process and a right. So it's both a procedural right, and it actually has substance to the right, as in a freedom of speech or a freedom of religion. You have a right to due process. You also have the right to the procedure of due process. So what that means is basically notice of a claim or charge, a meaningful opportunity to respond to that claim or charge before a unbiased tribunal, potentially a jury of your peers, if you choose so, and to have your responses be meaningfully considered, not to be biased or prejudiced throughout the process. And so his principal argument here appears to be that he hasn't received due process in his being charged with failure to file child support. If you're confused as heck, I am too. Let's keep going. The Fifth Amendment right of due process is for the federal government against the people of the United States, and then the 14th Amendment, I think, incorporates the Fifth Amendment to be against the states versus the individual. So the 14th Amendment means the Fifth Amendment applies to the states and in favor of the individual's rights. Statement of the case. A support action was commenced February 22nd, 2017 against the petitioner in the Family Court of the State of New York. A support action is a lawsuit, a specific kind of lawsuit for child support. Basically, someone is saying someone's not paying enough or at all paying child support. While appearing before the judge, petitioner stated he was fired from his job at Best Buy December 4th, 2015. The petitioner included in his financial disclosure affidavit for that same action that he collected unemployment during 2016. This same unemployment collected was from the Best Buy job. Petitioner was not working at the time that this support action was commencing. The support magistrate described to petitioner that the same support proceeding could yield the findings of imputed income against petitioner. Okay, so if you are alleging that you have not received notice of something, well, here's notice. The support magistrate said you can be imputed income if you do not work and do not set forth facts that convince the support magistrate that you have no ability to work or are having trouble finding a job. If you're not doing a good enough job finding a job, the support magistrate will charge you with support anyway. The petitioner filed a motion to dismiss the same proceeding as his most recent job was seasonal and had ended. It was effectively impossible to consider that petitioner had purposefully manipulated his income to avoid child support obligations. Again, you don't have to purposefully manipulate in some active, fraudulent sense. You just have to not be out there finding a job. That's really it. During the same support proceeding, respondent used the same job at Best Buy to support the claim of imputed income against petitioner. This was done through the evidence of an image of petitioner's cellular phone calendar. The respondent claimed that this same calendar image showed that petitioner had worked full-time. Petitioner had denied that he had worked full-time. The support order made from this support proceeding imputed income to $400 a week. Petitioner filed objections. The family court judge ordered the dismissal of his of petitioner's objections. Petitioner appealed the New York State Supreme Court Appellate Division 4th Department. Petitioner moved to proceed as a poor person. The New York State Supreme Court denied his motion to proceed as a poor person or informal pauperous based on lack of merits of his contentions. He moved for leave to appeal to this same support order to the New York State Court of Appeals. The State Court of Appeals ordered the dismissal of his motion for leave to appeal and stay both. He has not now ever had the means to comply with the support order imputing an income of $400 a week, and that they're in some kind of violation and that they would grant his appeal or something. This is one of the more ridiculous things I've seen in a while. This person has zero concept of what any of these things mean and is simply filing things. Honestly, guys, hear me out here. Tell me if I'm being too harsh, but if he had the time and had the energy to put in this effort, if I was his support officer, his support magistrate, as they referred to it in here, I would find imputed income in him wasting his time filing all this crap, making frivolous arguments to waste time in court when he's going to be found to owe the child support anyway. So the support officer did notify him that they could impute income. He then had a chance to show his financial situation and his job search and all that. Because you have to understand here, people, when you have parents who are fighting with each other, sometimes the kid becomes the victim. You know what? Not even sometimes, a lot of times the kid becomes the victim. The parents, and it's different reasons, sometimes parents just legitimately have a dispute and one parent can really ruin the whole thing. But in reality, many parents fight over the children, not because they care about the children. I'm sure they care, but the fight isn't about caring about the children. The fight is about winning against the other spouse. And I've seen it myself where we have perfectly good deals, perfectly good child support arrangements, but someone is going to hold out and cross their arms and stick their head up in the air and stamp their feet. And I've literally seen people do this, like literally that behavior, say, no, I don't want to agree because then he gets something, because then something works out for my ex or whatever. Totally at the expense of the kid. Totally without really any concern for the welfare of the child. So this is that situation, in my opinion. Mr. Rotondo has forgotten that child support is about the child, that he should be doing everything he can to find a job, any job, so that he can make his obligation. And guess what? When he finds a job, he won't have imputed income of $1,200 a month or more, $1,600 a month or more. He'll have the actual income to show the support officer. And as soon as he gets that job, he can petition the support officer for a change in the support amount. I don't know exactly what New York says about it, but in Pennsylvania, for example, you can petition, anytime. I think it's every 3 months or 6 months or something. And even then, any change of circumstances can be a change for a custody agreement, and any change in custody agreement can be a change in the support agreement. So there's lots of options for this person if he would just work with the system. It's really, I get it. Child support's not known to be something that people like paying, but you also need to support your child. And the child needs to be supported at the lifestyle to which the parents are accustomed. You don't get to bring up a disadvantaged child just because you don't like your ex. Now, another thing, my understanding was that he has passed up job opportunities. I don't have it, it's not in this document, but my understanding is that he won't take any job opportunities that he can't see himself in for less than 3 years. So if he thinks the job he's applying for isn't basically a career, even short-term career position, he won't take it. Now, I don't know if you guys have worked in the real world or not. I've worked a little bit in the real world where I applied for a real job and all that, and I'm quoting air quotes here on real job. I do believe that my real job is a real job, but what I mean is when you have to go through the process and you have to apply for a job and you get to be rejected a couple hundred times before somebody gives you an interview, and then you have to go through the interview 1 and then interview 2 and then interview 3 and then interview 4, and then you have to be rejected, and then they have to reconsider, and then they'll it's a process. It's horrible. I hate it, but it's what it is. So if Mr. Rotondo does not want to go through that process, I completely understand, but he's doing it for his kid. And he can't seem to get that through his head. I'm saying, if you didn't want to support a child, why did you have a child? You don't get to have sex and have a child and not support it.
I think the idea of him not wanting to take, retail or fast food jobs is that's a little bit beyond me, because my roommate just passed the bar, and so he's being called to the bar. Woohoo! But in the meantime, before he gets his lawyer job, it's he's going to be working at a coffee shop because he needs to pay rent until he can get a job at a firm. And that happens where you have an in-between job. That's life. That's being an adult. You don't have to like it. You don't have to stay there forever. These minimum wage type jobs, they know that you're going to leave for something better. And
future employers will look harsher upon him having contested his child support thing to the U.S. Supreme Court than they will at him having a quote-unquote McJob. And I don't even mean that as a derogatory term. I just mean a temporary, low-paying job with little benefits that is to help get you from A to B, a stepping stone in your life. I'm not saying that a person can't make a career out of a McJob. I'm just saying they're typically used as single-serving jobs and not as careers for people just starting out with their career. I'm really not trying to speak down to it. I think every job is valuable. It's the money is going to be what determines the value, basically. But I don't think that a garbage man is any worse than a McDonald's employee, is any worse than a lawyer or a doctor or whatever. You can choose your career, and you obviously people have to work harder for some career or another. Those are the things that differentiate. We no longer, I don't think. Correct me if you feel differently, but I no longer think that we need to look down on someone for having a different job or something when there are other equalizing things. I've got this job here, which is pretty awesome, and I don't have a lot of complaints about my job. what would it make? What would be the purpose for me to look down on someone who has a job that's not as cool as mine, in my humble opinion? That sounds worse to me than making fun of somebody because they didn't like the music that I liked, or they didn't like something different, or they chose to wear a different outfit, or they have a different culture, or they have a different skin color. It's not really hard for me to get there because you have to have a job, you have to have some source of income. And you don't often get a choice in the sense of going to the store and picking out the thing that you like. Sometimes you only get you only get the thing that you get. What if I was working at that hotel tower and that was my main job? Like, does that make me worse of a person because I have that as my job? If nothing else is different? No, it doesn't. What makes me good or bad as a person is how I interact with my fellow human beings, not what totally legal job I have. So I just want to make it clear that I think McJobs are perfectly legitimate jobs, and I'm not trying to use a term in a derogatory fashion.
And let's face it, you would get less work done if there weren't people at Chipotle who were
Absolutely.
willing to help you.
Absolutely.
Out with lunch.
And I love that I can go and have these people serve me. All right, everyone, thank you for joining me. I am Leonard French, your favorite copyright attorney. This is the Lawful Masses Sunday Show, a community-supported channel and show that we do here. Thank you very much for supporting us on patreon.com/ljfrench. And of course, also the Twitch subscribers cannot be overlooked. Thank you very much for your support on Twitch. Not the least of which is Breakfast Demon. Thank you very much for your donation of 25,000 bits about 2 days ago. Thank you to Whiskers is Cat for your 1,500 bit donation, and thank you to Faily 2008 for your 500 bit donation. Really appreciate you all there. Thank you to the Patreon sponsors. At the $50 level, we have Jonathon Doe, John Steele, Gavin Barnard, Eevi, Andy, Kyle Mudrak, Verement, Tayne, Sean McNamara, William Gonzalez, Michael Pearce, Grunkle Tia Marie, Terry Crisp, Richard Fournier, I think I got it right, and Michael Jones. Thank you very much for your support, and thank you to the $5 plus supporters who will be scrolling on the crawl and as well as the LED panel behind me. I have some dog video for you to take us out.
There's your book.
You coming in?
There's your book. There you go.
Come on in. Come on in. Yes, look right at the camera. That's very cute. Thank you. Hey, ow! That's my hand. She bit my hand.
Ow. She just smacked my throat. Claws and claws. Ow. You get water in there?
No, I do.
Oh, yes.
Hey, bear claws.
Thank you.
Here's our chicken. His method is interesting. He always seems to want to go on the first step and then jump from there.
He's very careful.